Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. How are you doing? I hope you're all doing okay. The world is a lot right now. I haven't posted in a few weeks because basically everything started up again in the UK. It felt like kind of around the same time, so all of a sudden my inbox was filled with like editing jobs and writing jobs that I had to do, and so this had to take a bit of a backseat, but we've kind of reached like a level of normal again now. So I will be continuing as normal with a few videos a week, starting off with the revival of this series that I used to do back in, I think it was like 2017, called Media Monthly, and I talked about it briefly on my Instagram stories probably a couple of weeks ago now, and so many of you said that you wanted to see it. It was like, I think it was like 98% said yes, so here we are. The basic premise behind this series is that I'm going to be talking to you about film, TV, books, podcasts, music, any other form of media. I did a degree in media studies and let's be honest, haven't used it since. So this might be fun. I want to reiterate that this is not a favourites video, so I'm not only going to be talking about the TV shows and the books or whatever that I loved, I'm also going to be talking about the ones that maybe I didn't connect with so well and why. It might not be every single thing that I watch or read or listen to, but it will be like the things of note, the things I have something to say about, whether that's because I would recommend them or because I just want to talk about them, and there's kind of both in here. This month is going to be very watch heavy. In fact, I think that all films and TV shows, because I watched a lot throughout the month of May. Some of the shows I talk about I will include spoilers with, but I promise that I will always give you fair warning and I will always give you a timestamp to skip to if you want to avoid the spoilers. The reason for that is just because I want to talk about these shows. I don't want to just like recommend you shows that I like. I actually want to kind of dive into them and talk about them a little bit. More on how that will be going on at the end of this video because it will make more sense then. This video is going to be like a little bit of both, some recommendations and some like, I wouldn't go as far as like analytical, but like just discussion. And then at the end of each episode, I will list a few things that I plan to watch or read or listen to in the next month, so you can watch along or read along with me if you want to. But with that, I also really encourage you to leave anything in the comments that you think I or anybody else should watch in the next month or whenever it happens to be. I think word of mouth recommendations for media texts are always better than like the algorithmic recommendations that you get from Netflix and stuff. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any thoughts about any of the shows that I talk about, please, please, please put them in the comments. Please use the comments. I just want to have a chat. I just want to talk to someone about film and TV. I'm all alone in my flat. So the first show that I want to talk about is Little Fires Everywhere, which you can watch on Amazon Prime. This is a television adaptation of a novel by Celeste Ng, and it's set in Shaker Heights, Ohio, where she grew up, and it's set in the 90s. The series follows the Richardson household. They are like a very stereotypical suburban American family, white, middle class, a mum, a dad, and 4 kids. And then we have Mia Warren, who is a black single mother, and her daughter Pearl, who at the beginning of the series move into the Richardsons' rental home. Right at the beginning, you see a flash forward to the end of the series of the Richardsons' house burning down, and one of the children missing. So throughout, you know that like that's the vibe, that's what we're heading towards. And yeah, it's just seeing how those events unfold. It covers themes of racial inequality and white privilege and what it means to be family. And it's one of those shows where there are just layers and layers and layers of secrets and lies that all kind of build up on each other, and then eventually we'll all have to come crashing down. I don't want to give too much away, and I'm not going to give any spoilers about the show, but it is one of the most powerful and thought-provoking series I have ever seen to examine white privilege. And I can't tell how much of that is because of the current climate, but I think what really struck me about this show is that each character is so realistic. All of their motives are so realistic, all of their actions are so realistic, and yes, it's heightened drama because it's TV and that's what makes TV, but I think it is so beautifully written, and I think there are so many layers to this. It's the kind of show that you can watch and digest and enjoy, and then when you turn it off, your brain is still spinning, just thinking about like what you've seen and what the implications of that are, and how you feel about the morality of what's happened. It's interesting because obviously I had to look up when it was set, and it was set in the 90s. But I couldn't really tell that. I did actually think a few times throughout the series, when is this set? Because it feels very current, definitely. But at the same time, some of the technology wasn't quite there, and there are a couple of things where I was like, that seems older, but the rest of it seems like very current. So I think it's really clever because they've obviously chosen to set it in the 90s, but it doesn't feel like an old story. It feels like it could very much still be something that happens today. Also, this might be a really weird thing to say about it, but I think with shows like this, I'm always waiting for a murder. I'm like, okay, who's gonna die? Like, where's the murder? And it doesn't come, and they don't imply it's going to come, but I think it's so inbuilt as part of the genre that like someone dies. And actually, I think the fact that they didn't include that, if anything, made it feel more realistic, because people don't go around murdering people. Well, some people do, I suppose, but like, it's in almost every show. One thing that I will say about this that I wouldn't say about a lot of shows is that genuinely every single episode is better than the last. The first episode was good, the second episode was better. I'm not going to keep listing numbers, but you get where I'm coming from, and I think that's rare. And every single time an episode ended, I was like, but I want to watch another one. It's so good. I would recommend this to anybody. I think it's brilliant. Next is a very easy watch, and it is a Netflix series called Never Have I Ever. I haven't seen many people talking about this, and I don't know why, because genuinely, I thought it was great. I watched the whole thing in one day. It's a very, very easy watch. It's brilliant. Never Have I Ever is like a coming of age teen comedy series about the main character called Devi, who is a first generation Indian American high school girl who decides that she wants to elevate the social status of her and her two best friends. It's a very classic like crushes and relationship drama, teen parties, family arguments style of show. But at the core of it, it has a lot of heart. It really reminded me of Jane the Virgin. If you have watched any of my Netflix videos before, you'll know how I feel about Jane the Virgin. I love it. And I think that's really high praise coming from me. Obviously the storyline's very different, but through all of the melodrama, there is a sincerity to it. It also explores the themes of grief and of, yeah, like coming of age, of family. It's great. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm really surprised that I haven't seen more people talking about it, because the reviews are really good. Like, the last episode had me in tears. It's brilliant. I think it did a good job of representation. There's some LGBT representation in there. There's racially diverse representation, and an acknowledgement of those cultures as well, and the cultural differences between India and America, for example, that are woven into this coming of age story really nicely, and I just think it's brilliant, and I think you should watch it. Right, next up, let's talk about Normal People on BBC iPlayer. I am going to be talking about some spoilers with this one because I am so desperate to talk about the ending, but I will warn you before that happens, and they're not coming yet. So if you want to hear a little bit about Normal People but you haven't seen it yet, stick around for a minute and then I'll tell you when to skip ahead. Normal People is another series that is based on a book, this time by Sally Rooney, and it is set in a small Irish town where we follow the characters of Marianne and Connell. We see them grow from school to university and beyond, and how they keep finding each other and intertwining their lives with one another. It's a love story, it is, and it's relatable because their kind of key problem that never even really gets solved is their communication or lack of. And I think we can all relate to that. We've all had situations where we haven't really feel like we could say how we felt, and I think in that respect it's quite like heart-wrenching. Okay, here are the spoilers. Skip here if you haven't seen it, skip to this time stamp, you've had your warning. Spoilers, 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 they are coming. Okay. I want to talk about the situation where Connell needed to move out. So he said he was going home, but then he actually wanted to move in with Marianne, but then Marianne was like, didn't really catch that because it's not what he said, and she thought he was breaking up with her, and it was a whole thing. I thought that was brilliant. I think it was really well written. I think it was really realistic. And it's just, yeah, it's heart-wrenching because it is so realistic. I think we've all been in that situation in a romantic relationship or otherwise, where neither of you really say what you mean or what you want because you don't want to go out on a limb and you don't want to make yourself vulnerable, but then in doing that you both end up with completely the wrong impression and neither of you get what you want. Yeah, I thought it was really brilliantly written, and I think it's something that we can all relate to. However, I do have some criticisms. This show didn't make me feel nice, you know, and not all shows do have to, but I think it was really one of those shows where they were either miserable or naked. The amount of sex that was in the show within the first few episodes particularly, I don't know, it just felt like a little bit much. I understand that they have to show the chemistry and that they wanted to show how passionate they were and all of this, but it's like, I think in episode 2 they told each other they loved each other, and it's like, you haven't even been out for dinner. I don't know. I don't think they did a particularly good job of making me root for the relationship. I liked the characters and I could see, but it was just painful. It just felt painful. There was no joy in it. I don't know. And we need to talk about the ending because I was furious. When I posted on my Instagram story that I was watching Normal People, I got so many DMs from people saying, prepare yourself, you're gonna sob. I was sobbing for weeks. And all of this stuff. And obviously anyone can cry at whatever they want. I'm not judging anybody for getting upset over it. However, it just made me really angry at Marianne because I know that she's been through a lot, but at the end of the day, he's only going to New York for a year. I mean, yeah, he could stay there, but I just feel like when you've been through that much with a person, do you not owe it to them to follow them or to try and be with them? When you're both saying that you want to be together, she didn't have a reason to stay where she was. Her reason was because I live here, and I just feel like that made me quite upset for Connell because he had really stood up for her and he had really chased after her, and I'm not saying that he was never at fault for anything, but I felt a huge injustice in their relationship ending where it did, and I just couldn't relate to her in any way. I never would have made that decision, so it didn't upset me, just annoyed me. For most of the show, because of what everyone was saying, I was like, he's gonna die. I don't know why. And also I think I didn't realise that it was the last episode. When I was watching the last episode I thought there was one more. So I thought that they decided they were going to split up. He was going to go to New York and then something was going to happen and he was going to die in New York, and then I would have cried. But then breaking up because she lives there when she doesn't really have any friends, she doesn't have any family, she doesn't really care about her career. Why? I don't know. Maybe I'm being insensitive. It just wound me up. Okay, the spoilers are over. You can come back and watch that little bit if and when you watch Normal People. Let's move on. Next on my list is The Office US. I watched this on Amazon Prime. Never seen it before. I'm up to season 7 right now. I've seen it now. I get it. I love it. I love John Krasinski. I have nothing else to say. If you've never watched the US Office, you should, and then you will understand all the gifs you see on Twitter. And the last show, I'm actually only halfway through this, that I want to talk about is Sweet Magnolias, which is on Netflix. I couldn't find the right words to summarise this, so I nicked it off Wikipedia. The best source for all of your information. Lifelong friends lift each other up as they juggle relationships, family and careers in the small southern town of Serenity. There are 3 women who are like childhood best friends, and basically they had a dream as children of starting a business together, so their lives are kind of all over the place, and so they decide to do it, just to set up this spa, and I think it's really cool. It's a very easy watch. You know what, it's got like Gilmore Girls vibes in that it does deal with some important topics and it deals with some like heavier subject matter, but it never feels very heavy. It's always it's like a blanket. Also, I forgot to say, I burnt my finger earlier, don't know if you can see, it has Jamie Lynn Spears in it. So if we have any Zoe 101 fans in the house, I know we've got at least one. I can't say she acts well, but she does act. It's really good. I would really recommend it. And lastly, if you follow me on Instagram, you will know that I started rewatching the Twilight series. I watched Twilight and I watched New Moon and I storied the whole thing. We had like a Twilight movie marathon. It was really good fun. I'm a better Twilight character than Charlie.
You can't!
I'm going to finish Eclipse and Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2 next month as well. So if you would like to see my thoughts on Twilight, you can go and watch the highlight that is on my Instagram profile. Yeah, I'm not going to delve into that anymore. Let's move on. Okay, so now we've done everything that I watched last month. Let's have a look at what's on my list to watch this month. So if you want to watch any of these, then you can come back to the Media Monthly video at the end of the month and we can have a chat about them. With everything going on at the moment, I have decided that throughout the next few weeks I do definitely want to watch and read and listen to and learn a lot more about racism, about how it affects our society and about what I can do to help. So a couple of the things that I've got on my list, I can expand this list. I've screenshotted so much on my phone, but I'm definitely going to be watching 13th, which is a documentary on Netflix, I believe, about the 13th Amendment, and Dear White People, which again is on Netflix, and I should have watched that a long time ago and I still haven't. I've got 3 other things on my list as well. We've got Space Force, which is the new Netflix series starring Steve Carell from The Office, because as I just said, just watched The Office, so I want to watch that. I want to watch the new season of Queer Eye, love Queer Eye. And the last thing that I'm definitely going to watch this month is Alex Rider on Amazon Prime. I caught a couple of clips of this at Comic-Con last year. Was it last year? Yes, October. What is time? Yeah, and it looks really great. I'm excited to watch it. I've never read the books, but obviously a lot of people have. So yeah, you can check those out if you like, and we can watch along together, so that we can have a chat about them in the next Media Monthly episode. Also, you will notice there is a distinct lack of reading materials and listening materials on this list. I don't know why. I think because I normally do my reading via audiobooks and my listening also with my ears. But like while I'm travelling, and obviously I'm not travelling, so I've just been watching a lot more. So yeah, if you do have any recommendations for things that I should read or things that I should listen to, be it podcasts, music, albums, whatever, please let me know. I think moving forward in these videos, I do want to talk about like spoilers more. Like I want to actually talk about the shows and books and what I thought of them and what I took from them and learned from them and anything of note, and like analyse them. But I didn't want to throw you guys in at the deep end because obviously I haven't given you any warning for the things that I've like watched and stuff. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you prefer this kind of recommendation style more, or whether you think it would be better to do a whole video where I just assume that we've all watched the same stuff, because I can't figure it out. I suppose the other alternative is to do a whole video about each series, just so you can just watch the ones that apply to you, but that just feels a bit overkill. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm going to workshop this idea a little bit more, but as we're all stuck inside, yeah, I just wanted to bring it back, have a chat about some great stuff that I've watched lately, and I think that's everything. I'll see you in a couple of days.